Despite facing a midseason lull in Big Ten play, the Cardiac Terps always managed to keep the excitement alive with their 4th walk-off win this past weekend, keeping the monster start to the Matt Swope era alive. We'll break down how Maryland baseball has fared so far this season, what's ahead, and much more on this edition of the Left Bench in Focus.
It's about character, it's about coming together as a team, it's about growing, it's about all those different things. I mean, it's a blessing to have them by my side.
Welcome back to the Left Bench in Focus, brought to you by Terrapin Sports Central. I'm Ben Wolf, alongside the one and only Andrew McBride. And Andrew, it's our first time behind the desk this semester, and boy, am I excited.
Ben, I'm so excited I can barely stay still right now. Just like the bats from Maryland baseball.
Good one, buddy.
Thanks.
Anyways, the Dirty Terps didn't show off those bats against UMBC. The game started at 6 and just ended, and the Dirty Terps lost this one against UMBC 4-2.
Next up for Maryland is Northwestern out in Evanston. The Wildcats are in the middle of a disappointing season. Northwestern is dead last in the Big Ten with a 10-18 record. They have lost 9 games in a row and haven't won a game in the conference so far this season. The last time the Terps and Wildcats squared off was in 2022. Maryland took the series win 2-1, including a 13-0 shutout. The Dirty Terps will look to take care of business again in Evanston.
To take a closer look at the Dirty Terps' upcoming series against Northwestern and their season thus far, we are happy to be joined by the Maryland Baseball Network boys, Nathan Schwartz and Oliver Schaack, also known as Maryland Baseball Connoisseurs.
Yes, sir.
Boys, thanks for being here and joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having
absolutely.
us.
Let's talk some Dirty Terps.
Started off, Terp fans were worried about the future of the program after Coach Rob Vaughn left after 6 years, and then in came Matt Swope. How was he able to have so much success so early on in his head coaching career thus far?
Yeah, I really think it's just been about sustaining the culture that not only Matt Swope, now the head coach, but when he was an assistant coach, it's just continuing on the success and the state of the program. This is a culture that has been built over the last half decade by Rob Vaughn, Anthony Papio, and Mike Morrison, all those guys now at Alabama. But head coach Matt Swope has been the constant over the coaching staff the last decade. And so to have him be in this position now where he can be the man in charge has just been a seamless transition.
Yeah, and beyond that too, you got to remember he played here. He loves this school. He is Maryland through and through. He runs Maryland blood. It's what he wants to do. He loves this place. And he'll do anything to keep this program at the level it's been for the past few years. And you're seeing it on display again. They already have 20-plus wins, and we're pretty much, halfway through the season with a couple more weeks to go.
Well, now let's take a look at this weekend against Northwestern. Maryland has really faced some adversity over the past 2 weekend series. How do you think the Terps will respond to try to propel themselves up the Big Ten standings?
Yeah, I mean, they're called the Cardiac Terps for a reason, right? I mean, they're 9-1 in one-run games. Their run differential in the 8th inning and 9th innings is plus 30, I believe. They have 60 runs scored in the 8th and 9th innings. You saw it last Sunday against Indiana, Michigan State, when they had 2 walk-off wins, courtesy of Braden Martin, who's only a freshman. He's incredible. So they're never out of games. Even when they're down early, they always find ways to fight back. So they've been dealing with adversity all year, and they're still well above 500.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you look at the team has been stellar offensively late in games, but also there's just been a lack of consistency over the past couple of weeks. The offense has been extremely cold at times. The pitching staff has really just struggled, as we've seen over the last couple of seasons. And at the beginning of the year, the pitching staff was fantastic, one of the best in the Big Ten, but over the last 2 or 3 weeks since conference play started, that slipped in towards the middle of the pack. So I think if they want to get at least 2 or 3 in Evanston or a sweep, they're going to need better performances from the starting rotation of Kenny Lippman, Logan Coster, and Joey McManus.
Right, and Nate, you talked about inconsistencies, and in general, there have been a lot of positives on both sides of the field, but when it gets to crunch time and must-win games later on this season, where does this team need to see improvement to make a run in the postseason?
And I think we're just hitting the head on the nail here, just consistently talking about the consistency of this team, and we've seen them be successful in these late game scenarios, but being able to put that for a whole 9 innings, I think they need to be able to prove that they can hold a lead for all 9 innings so that they don't have to come back in every game. I think once they're able to get a more complete product to where they can dominate inning 1 to inning 9 and get consistent performances from both its hitters and its pitchers, this team is going to be in a much better spot.
100%, and it starts with starting pitching. That's what killed them against Indiana. Every single starter who pitched in that series allowed 5 or more runs. Although McManus's 5 runs, I believe only 1 was earned. You can't put yourself in those types of situations. It's not putting the batters away with 2 strikes. It's walking hitters with 2 outs, and that puts pressure on your defense. And then when your batters come to the plate, already down so many runs early in the game, it's hard to get back into that mode of feeling like you're the dominant team. And that's the problem or the challenge for them going on, is being able to put it all together 1 through 9 and not, 6, 7, 8th inning or in the extras.
So building off of Andrew's question, can Maryland win back-to-back Big Ten tournaments for the first time in program history and make the NCAA tournament for the 4th straight season?
I mean, look, it's going to be tough to say they can win the Big Ten just because the Big Ten is so much better than it has been in recent years. Nebraska is one of the best teams in the country. They're nationally ranked. We saw what Indiana can do with the bats. If they put it together on the mound, they're going to be right there with Nebraska. And even the teams you don't really talk about that much. Michigan State gave Maryland a run for their money. Michigan in Ann Arbor, first series loss in Big Ten conference play for 23 consecutive series. They had that win streak that was snapped. Illinois is getting hot at the right time. So the conference is just getting better. The question is, can Maryland sustain it against these teams when it matters most in the Big Ten tournament? Because it's not a guarantee that they're going to make that tournament with how they've been playing in the past few weeks. But you know how good they can be based on the first 25 games when they had the second best start through 25 games in program history. The only year that they had a better start was when they had a program record 48 wins in 2022. So it's there, but the competition around them is just so elevated this year.
Yeah, I think when you look at the Big Ten tournament chances, right, you're already at a downfall by losing series to Indiana and Michigan, 2 teams that are going to be in the top half of the Big Ten. So you have to look at that. You're going to Nebraska in 2 weeks. They have a future All-American pitcher in Brett Sears right now, and you're going to be seeing him on a Friday night. You're going to have to take probably 1 or 2 of those games to even have a chance, and it also starts with a sweep potentially in Evanston coming up this weekend. In terms of the NCAA tournament chances, I think they're in a pretty good spot. Right now, in terms of what Baseball America has them projected at, it's a 3 seed in what would be the Charlottesville Regional. And so I think if they're just able to continue to get wins against teams with good RPI, which is being helped by the teams they've already played playing well, I think they've got a good shot to be a 3 or a 4 seed come mid-June.
We'll see what the Terps can do. All right, boys, that's all we got for you. Thanks so much for joining us and filling in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
We'll be back later with these guys to stump them in a fun game of trivia. But be sure to listen in to MarylandBaseballNetwork.com to hear these guys calling the games. Despite winning the Big Ten last year, the Dirty Terps had one major Achilles heel: pitching. So if this team wants to win a 3rd Big Ten title, the pitching staff needs to step up. And so far, they are.
TC's Ben Messinger breaks down Maryland baseball's pitching in Studio B. Ben?
Terps' strong pitching has kept them in close games so far. But in the last 8 games, Maryland gave up 89 runs. First, let's go into Maryland's starting rotation. Kenny Littman, Logan Coster, Dwayne McManus, and Ryan Van Buren to see how each of them have been performing this season. First up is the Friday night starter, Littman. He was dominant in his first 3 starts, but has struggled in his last 4. His total ERA slipped down to 6.06. If he can't get back to who he was at the beginning, his status as the Friday starter may be in jeopardy. Next up is the transfer from George Washington, Logan Coster. Coster has made a name for himself as the Saturday starter, but not so much after his last 2. He's given up 14 earned runs in 5 2/3 innings. His ERA went from 2.74 to a 5.36 after those 2. Despite the bump in the road, Coster was a big reason for Maryland's hot start. Next up, we have freshman Joey McManus. Swope turned to him to take the hill on Sundays after Meade Johnson started the first 2. Despite struggling in his first 2 starts, McManus has settled in well to this weekend starting role, posting a 3.38 ERA and a 1.44 whip. Lastly is Ryan Van Buren, who's been taking the mound every week and has been consistent, but his last 2 games have been rough. The Dirty Terps have won all 4 games he has started. His 5.30 ERA in 35.2 innings shows that he can give the team a chance to win every start. All right, let's compare this year's rotation to last year's. Jason Savicle was the Friday night starter in 2023. The 6th-round pick in the draft was 9-5 with a 4.22 ERA in 96 innings last season. I've talked about Littman, who's the Friday night starter this year, and based off the stats, So far, we could see that Savico has the edge. Moving to Saturday, where Nick Dean was the starter in 2023. Dean finished with a 3-2 record with a 5.54 ERA in 74 2/3 innings last season. In this case, Coster has been an upgrade over Dean and has been crucial on Saturdays. On to Sunday, where Maryland went from one freshman to another. Kyle McCoy was last year's starter and had a 4-6 record with a 5.91 ERA, but he couldn't pitch this year due to Tommy John surgery. McManus has settled into the role nicely to replace McCoy and has been a strong Sunday starter. Last year, Maryland's midweek situation was a mess. 4 different guys shared starts and struggled to stay consistent and put up a 5.61 ERA. This year's midweek starter, Van Buren, was one of those starters last year, but he's been much better. Now, let's move on to Logan Berrier, Alex Walsh, Omar Melendez, and Nate Haberthier in the bullpen. Berrier has been a shutdown reliever for Maryland this season. The Longwood transfer is 7-0 with a 2.02 ERA in 11 appearances. Alex Walsh has been a solid bullpen arm for Swope. He has a 6.75 ERA in 16 innings in his first season with Maryland after transferring from Lafayette. Now, on to Omar Melendez, who's been a midweek reliever this season. The Alabama State transfer has a 2-1 record with a 4.64 ERA in 6 relief appearances and 1 start. Lastly, Nate Haberthier is in his second year with the Terps and has been a key bullpen option. He is 2-0 with a 6.32 ERA in 15 2/3 innings this season. Now let's compare the overall pitching from this year to last year. This year's team ERA has been much better, boasting a 5.61 compared to last year's 5.97. The Dirty Terps last year averaged 8.11 strikeouts per game compared to this year's 6.94. Last year's pitching staff walked on average 1 more batter per game than this year. The Terps walked 5.08 opponents per game, and this year only 4.63 per game. And obviously we have to talk about hits and home runs. This year's pitching staff gave up less hits, 8.66 per game, compared to last year's 9.24. As for home runs, better this year again with a 1.30 per game, compared to last year's 1.43. We now see that this year's pitching is much better than last year, despite the recent struggles. But they'll need to step up if the Terps want to go far in the postseason. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Ben. And other Ben, I think it's really important for this team that the pitching has been able to step up this season, because with the Dirty Terps, you know that the batting will be in there night in and night out. So it's great that pitching can complement the batters now.
Yeah, and honestly, last season, I think Maryland got a little lucky in the Big Ten tournament thanks to a stellar performance by David Falco. And then the Winston-Salem Regional and the elimination game, that lack of pitching depth really just ended their season.
Yeah, you're right.
Now, don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we'll be back with the MBM boys to play a challenging game of trivia.
We'll also take a look at Matt Swope's head coaching resume so far, crown our midseason Rookie of the Year, and MVP. Don't go anywhere.
Hey guys, it's me, Isabella Gomez, filling in for Smokey Bear because he's got more to say than just...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Like, if you're outside enjoying a barbecue, don't let a hamburger distract you from fire safety. Make sure you aren't dumping your hot coals or ashes onto the ground because that could start a wildfire. So take wildfire prevention seriously, and let's save the world one day at a time. Juntos con Smokey Bear, podemos hacerlo. Go to smokeybear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
There is a road laid out for me.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
Leading down to the river. I am blind, but I need not see.
What do you think?
I know this road is there for me. If I'm really free, take me down to the river and walk.
Mario fue pintor más de 30 años. Cuando Mario me dijo que tenía problemas en el trabajo, que se le estaban olvidando las cosas, fue difícil.
Yo le diría a la gente que le diga a su familia lo que está pasando con él. Y quiero que me apoyen, que me entiendan y que me quieran.
Welcome back to the Left Bench in Focus, brought to you by Terrapin Sports Central. I'm Andrew McBride. That's Ben Wolf, and Ben, the Maryland Baseball Network guys talked about it a little bit before, but Head coach Matt Swope's resume in his first year as coach has been a pleasant surprise for the Dirty Terps so far.
That's right, Andrew. The Terps may have found their guy for the foreseeable future in Swope. Matt Swope is a Maryland man through and through. He went to high school down the road from campus at DeMatha, played outfield for the Terps from 1999 to 2002, and has been on the coaching staff since 2013 before being named head coach this past June. Since being named head coach, Swope has hit the ground running. Despite losing key players like Matt Shaw, Luke Schliger, and Nick LaRusso to the MLB draft, Swope made sure the Terps would continue their winning ways. He brought in key freshmen like Chris Hakopian and Braden Martin, transfers Sam Honar and Alex Calarco, and gave a much-needed revamp to the pitching staff. Swope's efforts have led the Terps to a 22-12 record about halfway through the season. The first-year head coach will look to continue the postseason success for Maryland by bringing home back-to-back Big Ten tournament titles and send the Terps to the NCAA tournament for the 4th straight season.
So we are joined again with the Maryland Baseball Network boys, where we're going to try to stump them in some trivia. And Ben, I think we're going to have their number on this one.
I think we do as well.
You guys ready in there?
Yeah, let's do it. We're going to be going against one another. I'm a little nervous, not going to lie about what these questions are, but let's get after it.
Nervous for a good reason.
All right,
First question. What 2 coaches is Maryland Baseball Stadium named after?
So it's Bob Turtle Smith.
Yeah, I knew that one.
And then it's Shipley Field. I don't know Coach Shipley's first name, but it's Shipley Field.
You're on the right
Bob
track.
Turtle Smith Stadium.
What is his name?
At least it used to be Shipley Field at Bob Turtle Smith Stadium.
I don't want to guess a wrong name. I feel like that's doing him a disservice. But you're right. Oh, man. Should I just guess a first name?
Sure, why not?
All right, we'll go Bob Turtle Smith. I'm feeling John Shipley is his name.
It's a great guess, but it's not. It's Burton Shipley. Bob Turtle Smith and Burton Shipley.
Close, almost.
We'll give you half a point on that one.
Half a point. All right.
Alrighty. So for the second question, which Maryland legend did Nick LaRusso pass to break the single-season RBI record last season?
That would be the father of Chris and Eddie, Derek Hakopian.
Ding, ding, ding. Correct.
Yeah. Respect.
Yeah, I mean,
all right, I have low expectations for you guys on this one, so we'll see. Matt Swope has taken over Bob Turtle Smith Stadium in his first year as head coach. But what statistic is he #1 in throughout Maryland baseball history?
Is it slugging percentage?
It is not.
Nope. Is it runs scored?
It is.
Bang!
That was my initial
guess. Bow!
I thought Luke broke that last year.
Oh, man, it feels good to get that one right.
I didn't check on the history there.
Alrighty, I think I'm going to get you guys on this one. Which Maryland head coach led the Terps to its first ever Super Regional?
Oh.
That would be,
what's his name?
It would be John Sheff.
That's correct.
That's good.
Let's go.
Yeah, no, you know ball. You know ball.
I know ball.
You know ball.
I guess you guys do know more ball than we expected.
You guys do deserve the title of Maryland baseball connoisseurs. You got us there.
We know what we're talking about. We know what we're talking about.
Now it's time to crown our mid-season Rookie of the Year. And how can we not go with Chris Hakopian? The freshman who initially committed to playing at Wake Forest decided to flip his commitment and continue the Hakopian lineage in the black and gold. Hakopian has been an absolute phenom for the Terps and arguably one of the squad's best players this season. He leads the team with 8 homers, has the second best batting average with 349, and the 3rd most RBIs with 28. Congrats to Chris on being named our midseason Rookie of the Year.
Now it's time for us to crown our midseason MVP, and we're keeping it in the family with Chris's brother, Eddie Hakopian. In his 2nd year as a Terp, Hakopian has turned up his game. Of eligible players, Hakopian leads the team in batting average, hits, on-base percentage, and steps up when Maryland needs a timely play. One of the big moments was a go-ahead 2 RBI single in the 9th inning against Michigan that allowed Maryland to steal the win. Hakopian has racked up a total of 46 hits and will look to add on to that the rest of the season. Congrats to Eddie on being named our midseason MVP. Okay, Ben, there have been some special plays by special players throughout the season for Maryland baseball, but we've dwindled down to our top 5 plays.
You got that right, brother.
Why don't you take it?
All right, here we go at number 5. We got Sam Honar's walk-off against UMBC. drives the ball to the left center field gap, securing the win for the Terps. And boy, he's been a huge transfer piece for this team this season.
Number 4, we've got our rookie of the season, Chris Hakopian, go-ahead home run against Michigan. This would wind up winning the game for Maryland as neither team would score. Hakopian loves to drive the ball deep, and he's getting it done as a freshman. Just a spectacular player.
And here we go. We got Chris Hakopian again, this time in the field, flashing the leather with this web gem. Here we go. We got it in slow motion. Makes the diving play, gets up, and guns the runner out at first base.
At number 2, we have Braden Martin's first walk-off against Michigan State. What a weekend this kid had. I mean, he just gets it into the outfield, brings them the winning runs, and the team goes nuts. Braden Martin brings a spark to this team that they desperately need, and what a moment for him. But he's not done yet.
And yet again, the Cardiac Terps and Braden Martin, with this second walk-off in this series, drives the ball way over the left fielder's head, secures the win for the Terps. And you know, Andrew, I was lucky enough to hit a walk-off home run in my playing day, and boy, oh boy, is it a great feeling to step up for your
Way to give
team.
yourself some flowers there,
Thank
man.
you. And this team is really going to look towards Braden Martin and Chris Hakopian to be impact players.
That's right.
This season. Well, that'll do for this edition of the Left Bench in Focus. Check back in with us next Monday for the Left Bench, where Nathan Schwartz and Jonas Evans will break down all things Maryland athletics.
Be sure to keep up with all Terrapin Sports Central coverage on X, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and online at TerrapinSportsCentral.com.
We'll see you next time.